And you'll never believe it who is in the house with me this morning. I don't listen. You know, the same way when you listen to me and you're trying to figure out what I look like. You talk to this lovely lady on radio, and you know, I saw a picture of her, and you think it's a tall woman, only to find out that it's a very petite lady. And guess what? When she smiles, listeners, you see that pronounced dimple. Knowledgeable lady gives you information in a very calm, cool way, and she makes it so interesting so that it's not boring. Who am I talking about? Gabrielle Gilpin Hudson, lawyer, realtor.
Morning,
Welcome
Vernon.
to the studio of Rhythm FM. First time here. Can you imagine that?
It's my first time here. I promised you I was going to come, and here I am.
Yes, and listen, you don't disappoint me at all. It's great to have you.
I'm glad.
And she's coming from the second, no, we never call it second, but I call it the first city of Montego Bay.
Yes.
Yes, tell us a bit about Montego Bay. What is happening there?
Montego Bay is great. Tourism is picking back up. So we're having more and more visitors coming. The cruise ships are up. We're seeing multiple cruise ships coming in per week. So we're definitely seeing an upsurge in the tourism industry, which is excellent.
You know, I got nervous a while ago when they say upsurge. You know what I'm thinking of? They say upsurge, because upsurge has a sort of negative connotation. Yeah. It is great to hear that. Mm-hmm. But I gather also that they constructed a new highway or bypass, and how is that going, and what impact will that have on the real estate business in Montego Bay?
Yeah, so they are actually putting in another bypass road. Mm-hmm. That road will actually take you over the town of Mobay, so you don't actually have to sit in the traffic in the town to go to businesses and so on.
No, you don't sit. You park.
Right, so you park really, yes. Especially at peak hours. Mm-hmm. So if you were, for example, going to Negril or going to the South Coast, you would actually be able to go over the town of Mobay, and it's expected that should alleviate a lot of traffic, because it is kind of a thoroughfare for all of those persons commuting further into the west. So,
and since you're here today, we're going to learn a little bit about you. You attended school in Montego Bay?
No, I am actually originally from Kingston.
From Kingston, okay.
Yes, so I am an immaculate girl.
Listeners, she really looked like an immaculate. She really looked like she went to the Immaculate.
Yes, yeah. So I'm an immaculate girl. Yes. I went there up to sixth form, and then I did my LLB at UWI-Mono. Mm-hmm. Studied law there, and then I went to Norman Manley Law School and started practicing as an attorney in a big firm for quite a number of years. Mm-hmm. Then I spent some time in finance, and then
finance too. So you don't make the money.
And deal making, investment banking, and then fully into real estate and development. And I have my own law firm and real estate brokerage now.
What a thing! And you're still a child.
No, actually, yesterday was my birthday.
Hold on. Yeah, but you didn't tell me.
I know.
No, that is very bad. So I'm going to sing for you that. I'm going to spoil it up. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, my dear friend Galbraith. Happy birthday. I try to sing there now. To you. Lord, I hope you had a great day.
Good job. Man. I did. It was a great day.
Yes,
it was a great day. So
right.
I'm not as young as I look.
Now I will have your birthday recorded in the system, so next day is not going to pass. It was great.
Definitely.
Now, this is not what I talk about. You can be glad to see you. But what is on your mind today?
Well,
Gabrielle?
Today I thought since I'm here in person, I'm using that as a theme for today, because I actually got a call from a potential client this week talking to me about how somebody has gone and gotten a title to their family property.
What?
Yes. So
I've heard this too.
Yes. So a lot of them haven't been here, haven't been on the property, haven't been to visit the property. And this person has been on the property, and they've made an application to acquire the property by adverse possession. What? And they now have a title to the property.
Let me tell you something. I object to it. I don't like it. It's legally, but what the state is saying, it is okay to steal. Whether you like it or not, it is stealing. And the fact that the state encourages, it. Now, I would buy it if the state allows you to stay there, and if the owner wants back the land, they say, okay, you have a year or two.
Yeah.
But
so it kind of works a little bit like that in the sense that you have 12 years, right? So for somebody or you're supposed to.
60 years for the state.
Right. 60 years if you're adversely possessing against the state, but against an individual.
12 years.
12 years.
But tell me where they have that difference. But I
don't, I really don't understand the logic behind the differentiation between a private and a state.
You can take private land, but you must leave the government land. Because after 60 years, you're ready for go and boneyard.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're on the land for 12 years, treating it as your own, in open and undisturbed possession of it, and behaving as though you are the owner, you can, after that time, make an application to become the owner. This really came from the common law, because they had a principle where they said, okay, well, if land is sitting there not being used and nobody's using it for these 12 years to object to you being on it, or to say no, come off, or to get you off, then it would become yours. So in a sense, you do have an opportunity to object, because even the process to get the title that way, you have to advertise, you have to serve notice on the neighbors and so on. So there are opportunities to object, but if you're not watching it and you're not looking out for it, or you don't have somebody going there in person from time to time, it could slip by you very easily.
So you learn now that if you have a car, you tell me if I have a car, right, and I'm not using the car, and I put it down there, then probably somebody could have the right to go and take it and drive it, and they could have get what is adverse possession of my car. Jackass, so they won't level. And you go and tell about the case again. You can't go into details, but that just give us a bit.
Yeah, so in a situation like that, once a title is issued, right, because a title is a very important document, the only way that you can challenge that title or go behind that title is to say that it was obtained by fraud.
By fraud, right.
And, fraud is something very difficult to prove. So
really?
Essentially, yes, it is. It's a high burden of proof.
Listen, I'm a lawyer. So that is telling me, say, when you're a fraudster, it is easier for you to get through than poor Vernon, or try to be honest. I mean, I say so, I know you say so.
Yeah, you say so.
I know you say so.
Yeah, but right, so if somebody does get the title, the only way for you to set that title aside is to say that it was obtained via fraudulent means, which does happen because some persons may put in these applications and they really weren't there for 12 years, or the statutory declarations that are supporting the application are really not legitimate.
But how do you prove that they were not there for 12 years?
Very hard.
Because if I can drop a money and pay the neighbor them.
Yep. It's hard. So fraud is a very hard thing to prove. There is also kind of a indemnity fund that the Registrar of Titles has.
Yes.
So you can also explore that option to kind of get back some compensation for the loss of the land and things like that. So there are some options available to you, but it is very difficult, which is why I say if you have property is a physical asset. You can't zoom and check in on your property. You need to go there in person and check on your property.
And if your property is in an area where Vernon Darby is the done, and I say, anyhow you come there, dog near me supper, how am I going to go there?
Very, very difficult.
By the way, that talk, I know what I'm going.
Yeah.
And I've been receiving the complaints.
Yeah.
And this is what the state need to deal with. They're in a house, a cuss and quarrel about who near master, who don't near master. Who know the concern about themselves. Deal with the adverse possession. Deal with what happened out there. And about take your poor people like that. Don't deal with that stuff. Waste no time a cuss and quarrel in parliament and talk about who near master. The one I want a master for you like here. Because my see me quarter ready too. So as far as me concerned, me a boss, a backer boss, and me pooper. And somebody come from Africa. But no one go and like say, well, you could have black till judgment come. Enough for we can see the European thing now too. I made enough trouble. Where am I? I'm not involved. But I must admit, your presence here has lifted my spirit. And I'm like
so
that.
Glad
and I'm feeding on your presence. So no, but tell me, as far as I know, they have a system or they allow you to register your email address with them. That would be the land or FLA, not FLA.
NLA,
NLA.
National Land Agency. I'm not fully sure of the how the system works, but they do recognize that there is an issue getting in contact with owners. So even with the amendments that they're looking at and bringing in e-titling and all of these things that they want to do to improve the titling system, right now, as it stands, if I want to find the owner to a piece of land, I have to pull the title. It usually has your address from when you bought the property or were registered on the property. It may have changed, and so a lot of the times you have no way to get into contact with these persons. So,
but what I need to do, talk to my listeners out there. I understand. Make sure you check it out.
You
that you are able to register your email with the authority, and if there's any transaction, you'll get an email. You know, I used to lobby for that for the banks, and I lobby for that. I'm lobbying for everybody. So if anybody want to buy your land, you should get an email. Also, I'm suggesting to the authorities that what you must be able to add a friend to that title. The friend is only someone who you can contact. So, because sometimes what happens, the owner of the land suffers from dementia, Alzheimer's, and they don't remember nothing, right? But unanas, work with me, because it seems that if you not encourage the nastiness. So I beg of you, encourage that if you have a title, and by the way, help me push that one too. I'm sure you haven't heard that suggestion before.
I think we definitely, so in terms of having a friend, really, when somebody...
I contact.
So an emergency contact would be useful, but it gets complicated from a legal perspective, because even if somebody has dementia, there are processes that you have to go through to appoint a guardian.
At least you know who to contact and that person. Because what happens, just like the banks, if your money is in the bank and then you suffer from dementia, you're not telling them, see a bank account, well, if they want to get money, so you're not tell them. But when you have a dementia challenge or Alzheimer's, who knows? And then it sits in the bank. And who gets it? And then next thing you know, even if you have a will, probably that was not on the will. So it stays there.
And it's also, that's why it's so important to also have a good relationship with your attorney, because you want your attorney, for example, your attorney should know where your original will is in the event of your passing, so your family can reach out to your attorney and ask them. Some attorneys keep wills for clients in safe, so they offer that service, so that the family, when you pass, can reach out to them for the will, or the attorney would be aware of what your assets are.
And they can also register it at RGD.
Yes,
because
correct.
The wills that we see is the age of technology. We are living in what I call the modern age. So when you make a will, for some reason the will can just change overnight. Don't ask me how it changes.
Trust me, it's I've seen a lot of things, right? And so you definitely want to make sure that you have somebody that's very trusted, that is kind of helping you to keep an eye on those assets. Because even, for example, looking in the daily newspapers, because for somebody to get through with that application, they have to publish an advertisement in the newspaper. So, just for example, by checking that regularly.
Let me give you a trouble this one. I need a lot of them to join me. When a law is to be, what do they call it now? When the government general, is it promulgate or what? It's using some big word, or law is we don't know, a big word or what have you. They say it has to be gazetted. How many persons even know what a gazette look like?
Boy, and they're not the easiest to get a hold of sometimes.
Exactly. The next thing with the paper. You think people buy paper nowadays? Where you can go on social media and get information?
Definitely. I think access to information is very important. And having information more readily available as to property transactions, where you can find owners.
But you know what they should do now?
Help.
I don't want to full of ideas. What ought to happen in an area if you are going to have adverse possession? You should have an announcement in a church. A notice should be put up at the post office or somewhere like that, publicly, so persons can see it. You can put it in a newspaper, and people are going to the bottom every newspaper, they have their phone.
Yeah, it misses a lot of people don't catch the notice, and that's why it's so important to be.
I'm hoping that the parliamentarians are listening to me when I'm at a cuss about where they must call them Miss and Master or what have you. The kind of name, then give me Vernon here, then give me a kind of name. All of me there school them out a nickname when me get. No stick yet. Mark had said it is right, but we're making too much of it. So these are the issues we need to be talking about in Parliament and improving the system. Because also some of the laws and the fines them is all like me as a 1 cent, which don't make no sense.
Some of the fines are outdated for sure. So you could do something wrong and you're faced with a fine that really doesn't slap you on the wrist or anything like that. So.
Well, you talk about slap on the wrist, but I tell you what I believe in this. I'm sure you won't agree with me. Right, so I would love to hear, without getting into details, as to how that person was able to get that land. And the owner was apparently still around. How were they able to do that?
So I don't have details on that particular situation, but in general, what happens is, so if you are interested in adversely possessing land, because sometimes it is actually, how would I say this? It's legitimate, you know. So if you have been farming this land, keeping this land, paying taxes, because you can pay the taxes on the land too, and maintaining it for the statutory period, then I can see the merit in you having some ability to regularize your title to it.
Still a nice way using the law to thief the land. I still
a
see
little
that.
bit,
Not
right? Well, land is very important. We don't want it to just sit down and go to waste. But if
There
you're
you
doing
go, Fred, this
something
morning.
productive
Land
with it,
is very important. That's why we should not allow criminals to steal it. Because as far as I'm concerned,
too,
the law don't make you a criminal. I'm not calling anybody criminal. But the moment you take it, there are some things that are morally wrong.
yeah.
You know it is not yours. You go capture the people, and when you capture the people, and they want the bulldozer, you have your borders all about treat poor
Sometimes,
people.
though, you know, it comes in handy because I have actually seen, for example, where the land is really family land, you know. And
No, you pronounce it incorrectly. It's not family
it's
land.
dead left.
No. A family land.
Family land, right? And
Yes.
it maybe belonged to the great grandmother,
Yes,
and she
yes.
never leave a will, and then
Yes,
her son never sort it out, and then him son never do this and
Yes,
that.
yes.
So the family has been on it, but there are no documents to support, them
support
being
it.
able to go and get a title
Right.
by regular first registration means, right? What some people do as a workaround to that is go about it by adversely possessing it.
Yes.
So where your great-great-grandmother is on the title, you say, okay, well, I have been here now for the 12 years.
Right.
And you adversely possess it against your great-great-grandmother because you just don't have the documentation to link it back in that way. So,
No, that one
using it as a little
have-
bit of a creative
Yes,
way.
I would be more,
Yeah.
willing to
Yeah.
accept
So it's
that
not
situation.
always a bad thing when
Yeah.
it happens, right?
But I tell you what I really believe should happen, that for any land where the owner cannot be verified, it should become the land. Of course, the land belongs to the state in any case, but it should become the land. What the crown land, no? Obviously, call it crown land. But I really believe that should happen. And then now the crown would have the responsibility to decide how you
What
dispose of
happens
it.
with it.
And that would discourage persons from just capturing land because there's a social problem, you know. When you have land capture, you have it in Kingston up by university there, which is really compromising our university, our top teaching university,
Yeah.
hospital there. You have the same problem in Flanker, all over the island. There's a social problem. And if you have a law which allows certain things, but at the same time it creates certain social problems, then that's injustice.
What I would say too on the social
Yeah.
point, Vernon, is that a lot of people fail to recognize the importance of a title because from a social perspective, a
Yes.
title to your land does so much for you. If you have a title to your land, you can now use your land as collateral to get a loan. So if you wanted to buy a taxi and start running off a taxi, but you know your income maybe you need to get creative and have an asset to
Right,
pledge as
right.
security for the bank, you can use that title and get your money to go and buy a taxi, or you can use the title to go and get a loan to pay for your education, things like that. So persons have land that is theirs, right? That is theirs, but they're unable to use that land as an asset to help them to increase their social position or their
But you know why we don't
network.
sort it out? Lawyers are too expensive.
Lawyers are not always too expensive.
But guess what?
But I
We-
agree, there needs to be that is why
But hold on,
NLA
which one costs more? The lawyer or the headache and the problem and the mix up and the fight and the
definitely the latter, Vernon.
Well,
Definitely.
You
the
got to try to
latter.
convince some people out there. 'Cause let me tell you something. Enough time you know where the fight start? Right at the funeral.
It's
That,
true.
right? Family over dead left. Lord of mercy. Anyhow, all I want to talk say lawyer expensive. Well, it's on there. When you not get a lawyer and that expensive, and then when you war and you not talk to your mother, you not talk to your brother and sister, and you start kill off one another, it don't make sense. Talk to a lawyer. By the way, how we can find this lovely, beautiful, intelligent lady and reality a lawyer?
Okay, so the easiest place to find me is maybe Instagram. You can follow me at Gabby.Grant. You can also check out my law firm's website. That is www.ghrlegal.com.
Right. And I'm just dying for you. Just make sure that I know when that little one is coming, because I know you're going to have some beautiful children, both you and your wonderful husband. You should have carried him this morning, you know. Tell him that we need to know it too. Oh, boy. And you continue to spread the love and everything in this country, because that's what we need. Sweet and nice persons like you. Have
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
Vernon.
day. Take care.
And to your listeners.
All the best. Yeah, there you have it. Gabriel Gilpin Hudson, lawyer, reality. Vernon Darby saying you're going to go for the break right now. Soon come back. Don't move.